really hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe, like, and click the bell to be notified of more fantastic music content just like this.
So how was last year for you? I know that a lot of plans were ruined, and then adaptations came in and people kind of evolving and trying to do things in a new way. How did it sort of hit you, and how did you cope with it, and how did you find the whole of 2020?
Whole life has been touring. I've, toured my whole career, and that's what I love. I love being on stage, and I love loud guitar amps, and I love playing saxophone and feeling that, feeling it through my whole body, and watching people in the audience as we're doing our thing. That is just the biggest drug to be taken away, for all of us, because it's just how we've spent our lives. So to that, to have that kind of sucked out of our existence, that was a big vacuum to kind of fill.
And it was overnight as well, wasn't it? It was there 1 minute and then bang, it was all gone.
Yeah, I mean, we were on the road and we took a break for a week to record an album. So we had everyone here in Los Angeles. We recorded this album. It was beautiful. It was Paul McCartney's drummer, Abraham Laboriel Jr., who we went to college together, and it was John Mayer's bass player, Sean Hurley, and Steve Perry from Journey came in and ended up singing on a bunch of tracks. I mean, it was just this magical, like, fairies were flying around as we were making music, And boy, by the end of that week, we were touching elbows and, oh my God, something's happening. And the world shut down. And as you said, it all just came crashing down in a matter of days.
So basically, what happened was your magical recording session sucked out all of the good of 2020 and left us with whatever was the scraps were that we've been dealing with ever since.
Basically,
yes.
What happened? My sessions basically put the world just in the dumper. Yeah, that's what happened. But you got to hear the record. I mean, it was kind of worth it.
So yeah,
I mean, being completely selfish, which is like we are supposed to be as artists, right? It was worth it to make that record and suck the good out of the world for that music.
So was the plan to release that? You were going to record it? I mean, did you get it finished firstly, and then was the plan to release it last year, or was it always going to plan for this year? What was the plan?
Absolutely, we were going to release it in 2020, and the plan was just to finish it and release it, probably in the fall. But we did finish it. I didn't record some of my vocals that week because I had a cold going into it, and I recorded them in my closet. And I know that, COVID-19 has taught us a lot of things. It has taught us how to record remotely. And so I was on the phone and on Zoom with my engineer, Nico, and just saying, how do I do this? Okay, I'm supposed to have the clothes behind me. What about the shoes? And you know what? It was a very interesting way to kind of finish out a record, and it's all done. We're going to put it out when we can be back in our natural habitat and touring. And I think we all see the light at the end of the tunnel at this point, that, it's going to happen. But it'll be probably mid next year when we put it out.
Yeah. Well, mid this year.
Oh, this year. You're right.
This year, yeah.
This year.
I was going to say that really is waiting. That really is waiting if you're going to wait until 2022. But it's good.
It is still weird. It's 2021. I think we've all just been it's 2020 for the past 7 years, it feels like. So
but there was no real,
in my mind.
There was no real sort of holiday season or kind of New Year's Eve as we'd have expected it. So normally that kind of grounds you into this is the new year now, because this we've had the big sort of celebration time. We didn't really get that. So you can be completely forgiven for feeling that one has just segued. It's just segued into the other without any real kind of marking of the new year.
It is odd. I mean, the only markers I've had for this year, and we've all done this differently, have been, we do Facebook Live shows every Tuesday. And, you know, look, I'm a musician that loves to play with other musicians. This is what I do. I'm not used to sitting in a studio by myself. I'm
Yeah.
used to just, you know, hugging people and playing loud and being in the center of it. Uh, and so I found a way to make that happen. So I knew that it was Tuesday every week because we'd have our show. I sit on my back porch and I usually have one guest over so that we can be socially distanced, and it's outside.
And some wine.
And, you know, and
This is
definitely have some wine.
this is the
a
wine and
music
music sessions, exactly. So I always like there's plenty of wine chat going on at the start as well. I've been watching a few of them back, and there's plenty of wine chat as well as music chat. But there's definitely a real music therapy going on in those.
I think it's music therapy for me even more than our audience. I mean, I want to stay connected to our audience that we're used to playing live for, but it's sanity for me. And as a musician, you know, it's like we got to find our way to make sense of it all. And for me, it's diving in and playing a little bit and getting to, you know, talk over Facebook Live and be, hey, what are you guys doing? What are you drinking? Okay, well, I got a song for you. Keep drinking. You know, it makes it feel normal at least.
Yeah, it's that weird sort of disconnect, though, isn't it, with the audience? It's not quite the same thing, but it's still nice to have. Well, it's better than nothing, really. I think is really what it's better than not doing it at all. At least there's some kind of feeling that people are hearing you, and you know. But it's just you can't really recreate that fully, and also you can't play remotely with people because of that delay. And that's been the sort of, if there's anything that has to be fixed, it's the playing remotely in different geographical locations at the same time. That's got to be, I'd say, once we've, you know, cured the global pandemic, the virus, once you get rid of that, the next thing is, let's fix this 3-second lag, whatever it is, between musicians. All science should go into to fixing that.
I'm so with you. If I need to sign anything, a petition, whatever, can you make that happen? That would change my life for the better.
But it really seems like, I mean, I started an open mic night in kind of, there was between lockdowns over here, we kind of had a few months where the pubs are open again, and I did this open mic night, and it really was music therapy. We had musicians coming out the woodwork who just needed their fix of playing live, singing live. And you know, how have you found musicians that you've played with, and also the audience reaction has been to those wine and music sessions?
You know what, it's really wild. You know, we started these wine and music sessions just because we felt disconnected and we felt alone. But our crowd and the people that have come to it, I mean, it's built and built and built. You know, it started with a few hundred people in at a time, and now it's just thousands. And it's become this place where not only are they listening to the songs I'm playing or drinking wine with me, they're talking with each other. And there's all these just little, you know, these little conversations going on the whole time. What a cool thing. It's like a show that we can all feel like we're in it together. And I love that aspect. It's awesome.
Absolutely. That's the thing I've found is that, like, after a while, they're kind of chatting amongst themselves. You're a bit like, hi guys, I'm over here. Can I? get a bit lost over here, you know, but that's great. But that's that feeling of community. Then when you do them every week and the same names are coming up, and you know, people are virtually getting to know each other who would never have met. They would never have been in the same gig, some of those guys.
No, and it's interesting, you know, it's like I've toured with a lot of different bands as a side person, just as a musician before I became a solo artist. And, you know, so some people know me from Aerosmith, and some people know me from Duran Duran. Some people know me as Mindi Abair. You know, as a solo artist, I, you know, had a lot of hits in the contemporary jazz market. Or some people know me from the blues because we had Mindi Abair and the Bone Shakers that was blues. So it's really interesting to get all those people together and get them to drink and get them to talk. And it's been fun to kind of bring my worlds together, because sometimes they can be splintered. You know, you're at a rock show, it's all your fans who are rock and rollers, but now it's everyone, and they seem to get along fine. There have been no fights so far.
Well, then you mentioned your amazing varied career. I mean, it's really been crazy the amount of things you've done over the years. I want to talk a little bit about all that, but let's go back to the very start, your upbringing, and was there music in the house? Was it musical family? I come from a musical family myself, so it was kind of the family business for us, you know. So what was it like for you? What sort of age did you start getting into music, or did it start to feel like it could be something that you wanted to do as a career?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely a part of a musical family, you know, not unlike yourself,
Yeah.
obviously. But it was a little different. I was pretty much born and they whisked me off on the road. And in those
Wow.
days, my dad was in a blue-eyed soul band. It was this high energy blue-eyed soul band that just toured the US. They were called the Entertainers, the Fabulous Entertainers. And so I was the baby, you know, for a while, just on the road. And I grew up, you know, helping pack the band truck or watching the band play. And it was a super fun way to grow up. I know that that's not normal. I get that. But the band broke up when I was, you know, probably 4 or 5, and we moved to Florida. My grandmother was an opera singer. She was a coloratura soprano.
Wow.
And, you know, just the total stereotypical, you know, big woman, big personality. And so she'd come over and sing arias with me and play piano. And meanwhile, my dad would have bands over. I'd come home from school and there'd be a drummer in the living room with cables into the 3rd bedroom. And someone was singing into my closet, and it was some, you know, rock band just going for it. And, you know, what a crazy childhood. That was my normal. So I don't think it was a space in time that I thought, you know, I should do music for a living. It was just everywhere, and it made sense, and it was fun. And it's definitely what I found you know, what I found in my heart that made me special, that made me feel good.
I can definitely relate to that. That's exactly what our house was like. It was every night was especially when we got into our teen years, but it was, well, we were singing and playing since we were very small. But got into our teen years, we started to all choose instruments, and all the brothers all kind of, you know, one was a drummer, one was, you know, we had a piano in the front room, and we did all that kind of the cables into the other room. We did all that as well, and
Awesome.
it's not until you realise that some people didn't do that, you know. It wasn't. Look back and
That's
think,
what I hear, but you and I don't know that.
yeah, exactly, perfectly normal for us. But so what sort of music were you reared on? When you kind of, what were you listening to then when you were a kid, or what really struck you the most or grabbed you the most?
You know, I had all this, you know, varied music, from, you know, my grandmother singing opera to, you know, my dad's, you know, kind of blues and soul. And then he started putting together rock bands. So I was definitely a kid that was just listening to the radio and listening to, you know, kind of what was around me. MTV came out, and I was just glued. You know, I
Yeah.
would just sit there. I so wanted to be Tina Turner. I was just like, she is the coolest chick on the planet. You know, she dance and she's like rocking it. Heart, you know, Ann and Nancy Wilson from Heart. I wanted to be them, you know. And
There's a strong female role models here now coming in. I mean, certainly.
yeah, and I understand. I started playing piano when I was 5, but I started saxophone when I was 8 in school band. And saxophone was this instrument that in school band was pretty chill. You know, you were just kind of supposed to play in the woodwind section, and you were playing marches and classical things. But in Tina Turner's band, and in Duran Duran, and in Springsteen's band, and in
Exactly what I
James
was going to
Brown's
say.
band, it was freaking off the chain. I mean, these sax players were just rock stars in and of themselves. And I saw that and just thought, okay, I can I can be that. That makes sense to me. I didn't want to stand in the corner. I didn't really know what jazz was. My dad was into jazz, so it couldn't be that cool to me.
Yeah, I know the feeling of that. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
I'm like, oh, you like that? Okay, I'm not going to like that. I
Yeah.
eventually got into it, but I mean, first and foremost, it was those rock and roll icons that were out there, you know, giving a pound of flesh every night and performing and going with this, you know, totally, you know, giving everything you have on stage every night. I was watching Aerosmith and you know, who I finally got to tour with, or Springsteen, who I got to play with finally, you know. But these were guys that and girls with heart, and Tina Turner, that just, they gave everything in their music, and they, you know, they emoted so much. They moved me. So that's what I took from that, from an early age. I didn't know what I was going to do necessarily, but I knew I wanted to make music that moved me.
Well, that makes sense with the saxophone now because you see how versatile that instrument is in terms
Yeah.
of its applications and everything from what it's sort of known for being in that kind of the smooth, sort of sexy kind of soul stuff through to sort of proper to soul music with kind of brass sections, and then then Bruce Springsteen using it in much more of a rock and roll kind of way. It's such a versatile instrument. So
Yeah. It's
I mean,
like a voice. I mean, you can
yeah.
whisper or you
Well,
can
that's
scream.
yeah,
You know,
and
it's nuance like that is beautiful to me.
absolutely. And you can see that in your albums. You've got a real mix of singing, of vocals, and then the sax just being the lead, and there being no vocals on the track whatsoever. But it has the same qualities as a voice, as you say. It's got a. It doesn't seem out of place being the lead instrument there, whereas that may seem that way maybe with other instruments, but it doesn't seem that way maybe with saxophone.
Yeah. Yeah. You
So
can say a little bit different things with lyrics, but it's like there is something about the growl of a saxophone, or that, you know, just kind of soaring over a melody, or the music, and it's emotive.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can see that you really just completely get lost in it when you're playing. You can see that.
Yeah, I miss that.
So
Well, we do that on the porch. It's all right.
that's okay. Yeah, that's okay.
My poor neighbors, you know, they're just watching me on the porch, just play my heart out, and, you know, have different people over, and we're just like going at it like there's 20,000 people out there,
That
when
must
in
be the
actuality it's me and my friend on the porch.
Must be fantastic living next door to you. Just set up a couple of chairs and get your wine and just sit there, and you've got a gig every Tuesday night. It's fantastic.
We've had a couple people run into my backyard, be like, "What? What is going on?" I'm like, "Who are you?"
Pull up a chair, get a
Yeah.
glass.
Just stay back.
Just
stay
stay 2
back.
minutes
But there's
apart,
wine over
yeah.
there.
So yeah, so let's see some of the people that you played with. I mean, it says here that you were busking and performing in hotels and bars and coffee shops and street corners. It says here. I don't know, maybe not too much about the street corners, but but that was you getting out gigging. I presume that was you kind of cutting your teeth live and
Yeah.
getting out there and playing. What were those early gigs like?
You know, I went to Berklee College of Music, which is
Right.
just an insane, incredible music school for contemporary music. You know, I could play rock and roll there. I could play jazz. I could play, you know, Americana and country and whatever. So I got out of Berklee, and I just thought, this will be great. I'll move to Los Angeles. I'll take over the world. I'll have a record deal within 6 months. This will be great. But I realized, you know, going to Los Angeles, they had every sax player they needed. They had every incredible musician they needed. And so it wasn't a matter of, oh, I'm just going to go take over. You know, I really had to find myself. So I went out. I came there to play saxophone and sing and write songs and be a performer. So I went out to play on the street, because I was like, no, I don't want to say, do you want fries with that? That's not what I came here to do. I came here to make music and I'm just going to do it. And somehow it's going to work. So I did that. And I got hired by a guy, I did it for months and paid the rent. And it was pretty cool. I learned a lot. It's pretty crazy when you've got someone who's probably mentally ill dancing right in front of you, and the nuttiness of, having hundreds of people around you as a street performer, what you learn as a give and take. It was pretty amazing. But I got hired by Bobby Lyle, who's an incredible jazz keyboardist.
Yeah.
And he took me on the road. And I saw the world with Bobby. And his band was a bunch of older jazz and fusion and soul guys. It was Al McKay from Earth, Wind and Fire playing guitar, and Alfonso Johnson from Weather Report. It was just incredible guys. And they took me under their wing, and they were so respectful. They showed me the ropes. They really—
what an incredible learning experience. You must have just been every night, just like, how much of a sponge can I be? Can you fully take in all of this stuff? Because obviously there's so much to learn in such a short space of time coming from those guys. I mean, it must have been a real baptism of fire.
It was. And look, I learned a lot in college. Berklee College of Music puts you out there, and they teach you a lot of great stuff. But this is stuff you can't learn in a classroom, and you can't learn in an arranging class or an ensemble playing the music of, Wayne Shorter. You're there. You're in a real setting. You've got people in front of you, and you've got these guys around you that have done this their whole life. And what a cool thing to— I understood what I had there, and what a cool thing that they were cool with me, and they were like, no, don't write your music charts like this, do it like this. This is how, it really works in the real world. Oh, okay. Or no, this is the way to be a professional. This is what you do, or don't stand in the back and play, go be you. Okay. So it was a really cool way to go. And that snowballed. Once I started playing with Bobby, then Tina Marie called, and Jonathan Butler called, and I was playing everything from South African music to, deep funk and R&B, and, playing with Lee Ritenour and playing with Adam Sandler.
I was going to say about that.
25 years.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was that like?
You know what? I literally got called because they'd seen me play, and I got called to say, Adam Sandler's going to do a music tour. This was 1995, I think. And, I knew Adam as a comedian, SNL and cool movies. And I was like, okay. They wanted someone who sang. They wanted background singers, but they wanted someone who played an instrument too. And Adam always does a lot of Springsteen. So he loves saxophone. So I went in, and it was like 200 girls, and I sang, and then I played sax, and
brilliant.
I became part of his band. And what's really cool about him is he just creates a family. And so the fact that I did that way back then, he's just called me for everything. When he got his Lifetime Achievement Award, I went and played with him. Or whenever they do a movie, I'll be in the background, like in the wedding scene in the band or something. And so it's been this beautiful family. The same guys, produce and direct his movies. And what a cool thing to learn, because as a band leader, you want to keep people around you that create a sameness, that create a safe place, that create a cool place, and that create my vibe. I don't want someone else's vibe. And I learned that from him. You take different things from artists you play with and people you come, around, but he taught me a lot.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Is that nothing is wasted. Everything you do goes into making you the person that you are. And I think to have such amazing experiences that you had in those early years it's just fantastic. But you worked hard to get to that place, because you're saying about Berklee kind of being just, you can't learn some things there, but that gave you a grounding and a confidence in yourself to then take on the big Bobby Lyle gig and then all that stuff. You kind of
Yeah.
It's all part of it, and it's a great way to cut your teeth, you know, getting that grounding. So what was
Yeah.
it like? What was it like getting onto the big into that? You know, the Backstreet Boys was obviously that's a huge. Again,
Huge.
it's a different kind of thing. It's those big pop tours where it's a production, isn't it? It's like almost like a theatre show. So you were playing different.
It's crazy.
You're playing keyboards and percussion and stuff. So like, were you MDing now, or you were part of an ensemble? How was that? What was that like? What were you
I
doing
just
there?
got hired out of the blue. They needed someone who played keyboards, percussion, and saxophone.
Right.
And uh, I got called by probably four people in the space of, 3 days saying, I just gave your name to the Backstreet Boys. Apparently there aren't many people who play saxophone, keyboards, and percussion. And I didn't play percussion very well, but they went with me on that. I learned as I went. But what an incredible opportunity. I mean, I got hired, their person came over and I played for them and just talked with them. And they were like, okay, you're going to be leaving in 3 days for Belgium. And it's going to be, an 18-month tour of the world. And,
What sort of
you're
venues
gonna,
were they? What sort of size venues were it? Was it the arenas? Was it all kind of
yeah, we were
arenas?
playing anywhere from 50,000 to 80,000 a night. I mean, sometimes
Wow.
more. Rome, I think, was 100,000. But yeah, it was all the enormo domes. And it was just bigger than life. And what a cool way to live your life for a couple of years. I saw the world, I got paid for it, and I got to live like a rock star. I mean, it
Yeah.
was it was really a different way of life. And I wasn't a Backstreet Boy, so I wasn't being attacked everywhere, but yet I was part of this very small entourage surrounding them. I was, one of five band members, and we got to see it. I would be in the tunnels with them, and there were thousands of people screaming, and going after us, and just to be in hotels where thousands of little girls are all around singing to you all night. And it was really, really amazing. And from a different perspective, I was the only girl, and it was something that had never occurred to me, that all these little girls maybe had never seen a woman playing an instrument.
Yeah.
They had seen girls singing or dancing, but maybe not muscling a saxophone around, running around a stage in a pop rock setting. And I got all these girls and their mothers emailing me just saying, this is so cool. I want to play saxophone, or I'm practicing more. This was, awesome to see you doing this. And I just felt this empowerment. I really felt like, oh, wow, I'm kind of a role model. I better live up to
Yeah.
this.
But this is this what you going from watching Tina Turner and Hart and all these strong female singers that inspired you to be who you were.
Yeah.
You then have this realization that, oh, hang on, there's a crowd full of young girls here,
Yeah.
and you're there being this strong performing, and then not a backing singer, an instrumentalist, not like the way you'd expect to see, sort of women on a stage is a certain thing. You're out of your box there. You're in
Yeah.
this front and center. That's fantastic. What amazing thing to be able to
Yeah.
bring to those young girls, to say, look, you can be stood next to the Backstreet Boys as well, which is which is probably going to be inspiration enough for them.
Yeah. It was a total life experience, and those guys worked so hard, and they were
Yeah.
good guys, and they really worked for it, and they cared, and it was just an incredible kind of machine to be a part of for a few years. And it's fun to
Absolutely.
see them, keep going and keep making music and keep taking over the world. You think sometimes, oh, it's just going to end, and people have their 15 minutes, whatever. But they wrote great songs and found great songs, and they could sing and they could dance, and they were good guys, and it has continued. They still have careers, which is just like, yes, you love when the good guy wins.
I think this might be my internet connection is gone a bit funny. Have you got me? Can
Oh,
you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you fine.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you
Sean,
losing me?
no, yeah. It's just it might be Sean. Is it my end that's doing that? Sean might be.
No, no, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay, sorry. Just Mindy kind of froze for a second there, and then I got a
Right,
thing
all
saying
good.
I got a thing saying your internet connection is unstable. It's obviously I think it's me.
No
But
worries.
anyway, sorry.
Is it me? Can you figure that out?
Yeah, it's okay. It's fine now. It's gone back to normal now. So
Okay.
we'll crack on as we were. But so yeah, so going from these like all the different things that you did to basically doing your own thing.
Yeah.
At what point was there a point where you purposely said, right, okay, I'm now going to do me?
You know, I always wanted to be a solo artist. It was always my complete goal to play my own music, have my own band, you know, tour, make records of my own. But I was never really given that opportunity. And back then, you couldn't record on your computer and put out a record.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like now where I can record a record today and put it out tomorrow and you can buy it. You know,
Yeah.
you had to get a record deal. You had to go through the pipeline or you weren't out there. So it was in the middle of a Backstreet Boys tour and I was playing a New Year's Eve party. I was off for a couple weeks. I was playing a big New Year's Eve celebration with Jonathan Butler. And this guy comes up to me and he's like, "Hi, I'm Bud Harner. I'm A&R for Verve Records. And I would love to talk to you about doing an instrumental record for Verve." And I was just
Wow.
like, yeah, Verve Records. Oh my, you know, my head exploded. And I just thought,
You're meant to act more cool in those situations. Well, maybe I'll talk to my people, but they're like, no, yes, yeah.
you know, you always want to be like rock star cool and everything, but you know,
not
I tried to
possible.
play it as cool as possible.
Not when Verve come knocking. It's fine. You're allowed to lose it. So,
Yeah.
So what was that like then? What was the process after that moment like?
I basically said to him, I love the idea. I'm into it. I have to finish the Backstreet Boys tour. You got to finish what you started. It's a whole thing.
Absolutely.
But once I get back, can I send you music and let's talk about it? So I really had it in my head when I went back for that last leg of the tour that, wow, what would it be like to kind of reimagine what an instrumental album would be? What a saxophone record in this time would be. Because we've heard, the 1980s saxophone and we've heard the 1970s saxophone. What would the millennium, record that would have saxophone as the main component be? How would that be cool? So I really thought about it. And when I came off tour, I sent Bud a few songs that I had done with my neighbor. We just sat out on the porch and wrote some songs and created some cool little vibes. And we were in the studio, I was signed to a record deal within days and we had a record done within like 2 months. It was crazy.
Wow.
And it was super fun. I had my friend who was my best friend in college produce it. And it was, it was all me. And it was music that was in my heart. We weren't trying to be anyone. We really were striving to just come up with a new sound. It was cool and hip for saxophone. And, that was it.
So it's kind of good you had that last part of the Backstreet Boys tour, really, because you kind of maybe, in those situations, I know what it's like on those tours, there's a lot of hanging around, there's a lot of time, a lot of hotel room time, dressing room time, but there's the actual playing.
Soul searching time.
Drinking wine time normally, but but there's a lot of time where you're not playing basically. So you must have had your brain, the cogs must have been whirring then, and you had that time to process it. So you were ready to hit the ground running by the time. You must have just been like jumping at the bit, Oh,
I was freaking out. I think I got off the plane, from the tour and drove to my friend's house. I'm like, we have to write some cool stuff. Okay, I've got some ideas, and it was just this flurry of let's create some cool sounds, some cool vibes. And And so, yeah, it was this really creative, inspired time. And, what a cool thing to do a record for Verve. I mean, that was definitely,
And you,
not many people get that possibility. I was like, oh, I better make use of this.
and it got up with #9. It got top 10 in the Billboard Contemporary Jazz chart. That's amazing.
Yeah, the first song came out, which was, I wrote it after this restaurant that we went to forever and ever called Lucy's. And it's, where Linda Ronstadt hung out, and the Eagles would hang out. And it was just this big music hang. And we wrote the song Lucy's, and it climbed up the charts, on the jazz charts in Billboard. And when it got #1, the magazine, Radio and Records, they gave me the cover. So it just had my big picture on it with Lucy's, #1 for 8 or 9 weeks. I can't remember.
Wow.
And I showed it to Lucy at the restaurant, and she was just like, whoa, that's my song. Oh my God, and all these people had come in her restaurant all these years, but they hadn't written a song with her name on it. And so she put a little reserved table on my favorite table, and it was there for like the next 10 years. I got a table out of it.
Yes, yes. In your face, Linda Ronstadt.
Like, me and Linda Ronstadt have a table.
Fantastic. And then you, the next album, #1 in the album number #1, Life Less Ordinary.
Yeah.
And you said it remained in the top 20 for 45 weeks. I mean, that is a crazy amount of time to be staying up there. I mean, what were you doing? Were you just touring around at that time? I mean, it must have just been, must have been amazing to go out there and you do the touring, but you're touring your own stuff now for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, that first record, once we made it, but even before it came out, we hit the road, and we just kept on the road. And so with each record, it just grew. The second record, Come As You Are, we were on the road opening for Josh Groban, and that was a whole new audience and bigger places. We had been playing radio shows and stuff like that, and we bonded, and we became this, just amazing live band. That was our thing, that we played live. And so, yeah, by the third or fourth record, it was just like, we were just playing every week. We were somewhere, and we just didn't stop. And I love that. I love that energy. And, I love being in a studio. Don't get me wrong. It's fun to write and be in there and make it happen. But playing it live, that's what I dream of. That's what I want to do every day.
Well, it's that kind of exchange between audience and artist is something that, as we've all discovered during last year, that you can't replace that. You just can't. There's nothing quite like that. And every gig is a unique experience with that particular audience and that back and forth that happens, the energy.
Yeah.
And playing into a computer is not the same thing. You can't. It's just you don't. You people don't quite realize what that feels like, having that and it is a two-way street, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a conversation. And I feel like, it's so weird to, now play on my porch every week, and, you finish a song and you're sweating and you got everything in it, and you open your eyes and like, not a peep, it's just total crickets. Yeah. And you're just like, all right, keep going. So yeah, a totally different energy in 2020 than the rest of our lives. But always look back on it and laugh at that just crickets.
But I love your throughout your albums, you've done really good like reimaginings of covers of like doing different versions, taking it and twisting it around a bit and doing it different things. Is it just those things that come, where do they come from, those ideas, those covers? Where do you pull them from? Are they just things that you hear a song and you think, oh, I could do something different with that, or someone suggests it, or what's the sort of way that they come about?
Each song comes about differently. Summertime was a song that we did on our live in Seattle record with me and the Bone Shakers. And Summertime, is the oldest song on the planet. George Gershwin, and everyone's recorded it. I mean, I don't know anyone who hasn't recorded it. And there's a reason. It's a great song.
It is a great song, yeah.
But I had played it for years, you know, kind of in a jazzy kind of Bill Withers vibe. But I got together with the Bone Shakers and I just thought, I love Summertime. I want to keep playing it, but this vibe has been there and done that.
Yeah.
What if we went just Jimi Hendrix with it? Like, what if we went just no depression, Jimi Hendrix, just crazy, and I'm singing like all these, you know, guitar harmonics and stuff, like a, you know, just crazy off the chain, you know, kind of thing. And my guitarist, Randy Jacobs in the Bone Shakers, I mean, he just started playing and I looked at him and went, wow, we are either going to get booed off the stage and we have completely bastardized George Gershwin and possibly Hendrix, or people are going to love this as much as I do and they're going to feel it and they're going to be on their feet. And so we played it for the first time, actually the night that we recorded our live record. And we're just like, let's try it. You know, what could go wrong? And we played it and people just got on their feet and they were cheering and they were, you know, going for it. And we just looked at each other like, oh, thank God.
Because there is a danger. It's that sort of Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future moment where he's kicking over the amp and everything, and everyone's just stood there looking at him. I guess you're not ready for that, sort of, yeah. But it worked. But it worked.
It worked, and we played that thing live for years and years, and it was so fun to play Summertime and have it be this anthem. I mean, this just total in your face. It was just the most, you know, the most power of the night came in this jazz song that, you know, would just bring the house down, and super fun to bring together different worlds, you know, to you know, that have been in my realm, but bring them together and somehow make them work. So I love doing stuff like that.
Well, those Bone Shakers gigs they just look, sounds like they just kick ass. Like, I mean, the albums do. So God knows what the I mean, what are those like? I mean, I know that you've I just listening back to the 2019 album No Good Deed, and it's just a real raw energy to that, you know. And so recording the albums, it sounds like everything's kind of done in a live sort of way. Sounds live, and so is that how you recorded them?
Yeah, it's interesting. The guy that produced both of our studio records for me and the Bone Shakers, Kevin Shirley, he's worked with Led Zeppelin and Joe Bonamassa and the Black Crowes, you know, all these bands that they are live bands. You want to capture that magic that happens live that's so hard to put on tape. And so I loved his pedigree for producing us because we were that band, you know. I didn't want to make magic in the studio. I didn't want to fix it in the mix. I didn't want to record you over there and him in a different city and add him later. I really wanted that, what made us special in the room together, playing off each other. And it's a very musical band. We listen to each other and we work off each other with solos and just where we take it. And Kevin Shirley was the perfect person to help us be that, help us not overthink it, but really capture the lightning in the room. And so, we went in and played through the song a couple times and it was done. And it, you know, we took the take that felt like we wanted it to feel, but I don't think we ever took more than 2 takes, maybe 3 of something, because I didn't hit some vocal note or, you know, something that I felt good about. But I didn't even go in and punch in vocals or punch in a sax solo. It was what it was. And I thought that was fun because my first few records for Verve and Concord hadn't been that. They had been, well, let's go fix that. Let's make sure that sounds really perfect. Maybe we should put an extra keyboard part in here, you know, and maybe some ear candy over here. But with the records for Mindi Abair and the Bone Shakers, it was really, this is what it is. when you come see us live, you're just going to get more sweat and, lighting and alcohol. But if you buy the record, you're going to hopefully get that same feeling and get that same emotion.
Yeah, well, that's kind of how records kind of started, was capturing the live, the band live, and how they were first recorded, and then it seems to be coming back round to that. There's been a lot more people that are talking about doing that live thing. I think maybe a lot more people are talking about that in 2020 because we're missing live so much. They're thinking, well, if we're going to get a chance to play live, let's do it all the time, including when we're recording. But it must be something nice about almost you kind of passing the responsibility of it over to the in your case, Kevin Shirley, sort of saying it's your responsibility to capture this now. We're just going to do what we do and don't miss anything. It must be quite freeing. You're not worried about the recording process. It doesn't feel like a recording then, if you know what I mean. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think when you have the right people together and that right camaraderie, and what you're playing, you've got your view of what it should be, you're all on the same page, that you can really make magic. And it was fun to have that band and be able to kind of all do what we do, but complement each other. We were all very different players and different personalities. And I think it worked, as so many great bands work, because we were so different and we completed each other. Duran Duran is like that. I mean, you look at these guys individually and they're incredible musicians, very different. And then they come together and it's like, oh, wow. They complete each other, and that's how I looked at our band, that, Randy had this thought process as a guitarist that he would just come up with things. I'm like, whoa, and our drummer was like a wild animal, like chained to his drums, but he would, he was this driving force, and we all found our place in it and became better for it. It's so fun to find that making music with people.
Absolutely. Well, it comes across, the excitement and the energy just comes across even in the recordings, which is something which I know is very, very hard to capture. So well done for doing that.
Thank you.
So what's next? Obviously, we're all looking at getting back on a stage as soon as vaccines will allow us. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, jab my arm as soon as you possibly can. But
I know, I love that you guys say jab. I watch BBC and they're like, we're setting up tents so that people can get jabbed. And I'm like, in America, getting jabbed means like I punch you in the face. I like that,
Also, getting a shot.
Jabbed all over the place. Oh.
But getting a shot in the arm could be even worse.
Oh yeah, I guess so. So is it? The plan is now to get the album out and to get back on the stage. Is that kind of what you're looking at? And do you have a rough sort of time frame for that? Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Shows are opening up, and depending on where in the world or where in the United States, it's kind of opening up differently. So we're kind of looking at how does this, all play out, and when do we really get back on the road? But I'm thinking this record that we recorded this past year in 2020, that it'll be out probably mid 2021. So it'll be out, I would say, June-ish. And I'm just looking forward to it. We put out a single called Forever a couple months ago, and that did great. And it was so fun to just be back.
Great vibe to that. I mean, what a great vibe that is. It just sits lovely, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's just very feel good. There were songs that, when I was in Mindi Abair and the Bone Shakers, there were these personal songs or more touchy-feely songs, kind of easier going. It didn't really fit that band. So I just kind of kept them in a pile over here thinking, well, one day I'll know what to do with them. But it was time. It was time to make a solo record again and play those songs that had been sitting there kind of talking to me like, when are you gonna do me? When are you gonna record me? I'm still here. So we're probably gonna release another single in the next month and just keep going and release the record in a few months. But it's a super cool album, there's, a woman power song, Where There's a Woman, There's a Way, that I wrote with Jim Peterick, who wrote Eye of the Tiger and Hold On Loosely and all the, Vehicle for Ides of March. He's just such a great songwriter and friend. And there's a few of those songs on the record that are meaningful to me. And I can't wait to get it out there. Meaningful stuff.
And where's the best place that people can keep in touch with all the latest news?
You know what? Join my email. Yeah, join my email list at mindyabair.com. Just, we send out stuff probably once a month. But Facebook, if you follow me on Facebook, which is at Mindi Abair, MindiAbair, then you'll get all our reminders when we go live. And we go live every Tuesday. And, I've had really cool guests on, Ellis Hall, who sang for Tower of Power for years, or, even Bird the Bailiff, who was on Judge Judy for a million years, or Dave Paz and Peter White from Al Stewart's band and from his solo career. So I've got some cool people lined up for this year that, come over to the porch and play and make some music. So it's always a nice thing. But yeah, Facebook, Instagram, my website, mindyabair.com. That'll keep you in touch. And hopefully we'll be playing live again, very soon.
Absolutely. I've got a proper music interview question, which I don't normally do, because I'm normally just I'm going to act like I'm a real journalist here now. But this is
I'm here. I'm believing. Look,
I'm 100% is. So dream gig. The gig is you're opening, and then there's someone after you. Then there's somebody headlining, and they can be anybody in the history of the world, and there's no boundaries on who you can choose. Who would be on after you, and then who's headlining?
Wow, that's so great. I love that. That's a great question.
Thank you.
So we're opening. I would love Tina Turner to be on next. And I want, Tina Turner. I want the dancing, raucous, crazy fun, and after them, boy, it'd be a rough one. I would go with either Led Zeppelin or Rolling Stones.
That's a gig and a half.
I know one's possible and one's not, but either one of those would make me pretty happy. Just there's some kind of zen for me with a rock band that's just, got that, after a while with Aerosmith on the road, just standing in front of 14 amplifiers, going crazy. Like there's a zen to it. So I think that would be that would be my lineup.
Excellent. That's pretty good. I'd buy a ticket for that, definitely. But
I mean, that would rock your world, right?
Absolutely. 100%. And then
now, if I could sit in with Tina Turner and then sit in with the Stones or Led Zeppelin, that would be.
We've seen this. I've seen the video.
Come on, I'm in.
You're in. That was your audition. It's already out there on YouTube. It's fine.
Mick.
That would work too. We'll send that to him. And then, of all the people that you've played with, the different, and talk about not your own stuff now, I'm talking about all the tours that you did with the various different other artists. Is there one particular moment, I'm going to put you on the spot and make you choose one that really stands out where you kind of had a bit of a, wow, this is amazing, or a moment, or that's how I'm going to put it.
Yeah, there's one moment that just, that blew my mind. I got a call from Max Weinberg one night, and he just said, Bruce Springsteen is playing at the Beacon Theater in New York, and it's for a huge charity, Stand Up for Heroes. And Clarence Clemons had just passed away. So, here's the sax player that rules the face of the earth is gone. You never think that Clarence Clemens will ever pass away.
Yeah.
And he goes, we need a sax player for Spirit in the Night. Would you come play? And I was like a blur to the airport. I was literally just like, oh my God, I did not just get called to play with Bruce Springsteen. This is crazy. So I did. And it was crazy to meet him. It was crazy to, rehearse the song. But when it actually came down to playing the song on stage with the full band and just everything going on, I was so taken with the moment that I just remember thinking to myself, oh my God, you have to think about what you're playing. You don't play this song every night. You actually have to think. You can't be in this zone of you're just digging it. And so I had to come back in myself, but I was just a fan, watching Bruce, look at me and go, take it. And he starts hopping over chairs and, running over people and playing. And I was just like, this is awesome. Oh God, what am I playing? So that was, I lived on that high for so many months.
Kicking, sort of thinking, okay, yeah, I'm not watching this gig. I'm on this gig. I've got to.
Right, oh my God, I've got to play.
I'm not in the audience. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. That must have been amazing. Wow.
It was magical. It was just, I think he's just one of the best songwriters, most incredible artists to walk the planet. His music matters and he gives his all.
And he's still creating great music, isn't he, as well? He's still creating great music.
Yeah, he is, which is incredible. He could have just bought his own island and escaped to it. And, he doesn't need to do anything else, but yet he does.
It still looks great as well, doesn't he? It still looks amazing. How do you do that?
I don't know, but maybe that's your next interview and I can learn from him.
But no, you're looking great as well, I have to say. You are looking amazing. So just wanted to say that. It's not just Bruce.
Thank you. Hopefully I'll hold up like Bruce. I mean, hey, if you can play 4-hour shows at whatever he is, 65 years old or something, I mean.
Absolutely.
I think coming back in 2021 to like an hour show, I'm going to be huffing and puffing. So yeah, we're all going to have to work our way up to like Springsteen level in 2021.
Springsteen level match fitness. Match fitness is the issue. But but I think maybe he's just like it's just a shark. He just has to keep swimming and then he's fine. It's like, or like the cartoon character that runs off the cliff, and as long as they don't look down, they keep going. Maybe that's
keep going like.
You just keep going. Remember, it's Bruce. Bruce hasn't looked down. He's just keeping on running. And fair play to him.
I think there's something to that. I do.
Yeah, absolutely. We always do a recommendation on the show, so I'd like to ask you to recommend somebody that people should check out and that people need to know. This is the Need to Know Music Show. So you see what I did there? It's very clever. So if you could recommend somebody that people go and check out. It can either be someone kind of new that you've discovered recently, or it can be someone that's influenced you over the years that you think people just simply have to check this person out. Who was your recommendation, Mindi Abair?
I recommend Marcus King. I'm digging him right now, and he came out with that record El Dorado in 2020, and it was great. I mean, every song on it was awesome. I mean, between his record, Ray LaMontagne's record this past year, and the Chris Stapleton record that just came out, I mean, it was great music in 2020. And, we were all worried about putting out music in 2020 because we weren't touring and all this stuff. But yet these guys put out these great records. And Marcus King and his band, the guy is like 23. I mean, he just looks like a kid, and then he starts singing. And, I got to write and record with Greg Allman, and Greg has this thing about his voice. Like, you live through it when he sings a note. And Marcus has that magic. It's cool.
Well, we'll put a link to his stuff there so people can check that out. And we'll also put links to all of your stuff and where people can come and say hello and join the family. It sounds like you've got a great family going on.
Absolutely. Come hang on the front porch.
Well, I wish you all the best with your continuing Wine and Music Tuesdays, and then all the best with the album and getting back on the stage as soon as possible, and then never leaving it ever again.
Thank you. Yes, to everyone. Let's put that in the universe.
Mindi, thank you so much for joining. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you,
And there's been so much. What an amazing career you've had, and long may it continue.
Thank you. As with you. Thanks for spending the time. This was really fun.
It's been brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much. Take care. Stay safe
All
and
right.
stay well. Bye-bye.